I ask you a question? Are you ready to get and keep momentum in your business? I hope so, because it's Penny Elliott here, your host, to having the perfect mix of the woo with the do. If you're ready to create the life that you want through a business designed by you, then tune in. Hello, and welcome to the Get Momentum for Online Entrepreneurs podcast with me, your host, Penny Elliott. The show where we match the woo with the do. So that's your perfect mix of mindset and strategy to have fast success in your online business so you can finally live the life you thought you were going to when you first started your business. And we're kicking this podcast off, as you know, with the Hit Refresh on 2020 Summit. And today I have the amazing Natalie Coulter-Walsh. She will introduce herself formally, but first and foremost, I know Nat as the go-to girl here in New Zealand. She's been the go-to girl for quite a few things, actually, and has popped up in my world time and time again over the last 4 or 5 years on our entrepreneurial journey as a woman who has published a book around children, which didn't really interest me very much, but now is very much an interest of mine as Josh gets older and older. Today we were at the zoo this morning, and I couldn't believe how much he's grown since the first time I took him. Then she has been into publicity, networking, how to get on stage, speaking events, and also as one of New Zealand's highest ranking and leading people in the doTERRA world as well, helping us with our health and wellness in a all-natural way. So I'm sure, Nat, you've got a much more formal introduction to tell the listeners, but I like to let people know that, everyone that comes on the show, I have a real good connection with. So over to you. What is your formal way of introducing yourself?
Well, no, I love that. I love that fluid intro. I am the go-to girl. I am also calling myself the Up Your Brave mentor. And what that really is about is courage, resilience, saying what you want, doing what you want. So I think that jives really nicely with you and the do and the woo. Because one of the things I've noticed, over my 15 years as a speaker, author, impact entrepreneur, mother of 3, and all the things, is that a lot of people tend to be living their lives in what I call the should zone, or the frustration zone, which sits beside the should zone. But where they want to get to, I call the impact zone. So I can talk a little bit about that later on, but that's really why I call myself the Up Your Brave mentor, because what you need to do to get to the impact zone, you do need to up your brave. You do need to dust yourself off. You need to, connect with what you genuinely want to do, be, and have in your life, and then take empowered action, not just crazy action, and certainly not no action, but empowered action to really make that happen. So that's what I love helping people with. So whether it's, moms that are overwhelmed and exhausted, or entrepreneurs, women entrepreneurs who they're ready to shine. They want to speak on stage or in the media. I love to help people shine, but it really comes down to them living their life in the impact zone.
Amazing. I love that. Yeah, because if you're not living your life in that zone, then you're not having the impact that you really wish that you wanted to. And I've told this story before, but I've always been like, right, just go out, do it. It's totally fine, crack on. And then when I had Josh, I became in this sort of world of timings and feedings and what do we do at playtime, and how do I get him to sleep without being on me, and then how do I do I wake him up, do I do this? And it's just that was your world, that becomes your world. And when I went whilst I kept my business running, I didn't do any launches or anything really brave, putting myself out there. When I went to go back to do that, I was like, oh, this is actually quite uncomfortable. I've got to get into this mum zone, out of this mum zone and back into this sort of vulnerable being out there stage. So I think it's fantastic how you're helping people.
I think it's cool that you mentioned that too, because I wrote the parenting book. Here's a couple copies behind me. I feel like most mothers maybe, but my confidence certainly took a knock. When I had kids, I was normally I'm a decision maker, I'm a mover and a shaker, I'm an action taker. And all of a sudden I was I was going, ooh, front pack or stroller? I can't decide, and it was crazy. And so I feel like you're right. And we go into that motherhood martyrdom role as well, where we put ourselves completely at the bottom of the heap, under the dog in terms of priority. And I feel like it's hard to crawl back from that, but we got to do it. So welcome back.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think one of the other things, and before I go on to the first question, sort of like of the Hit Refresh Summit, is so many times you get told you are a shell that's keeping your baby alive. And so that's even in the priority scale, like underneath actual human, like you're right, underneath the dog. It's so true. It's like, yep, I'm just the machine keeping this child alive. But actually I am someone and still inside. Okay, so with the current environment, and as this summit has gone on, the environment has definitely changed from being COVID lockdown focus to Black Lives Matter focus, back to COVID again. So I think that actually this question will probably continue throughout the whole year as we see more and more things happen in the world. But I've asked everyone as part of the summit, how are you hitting refresh on 2020, both in your business and your life? So what prompted me to ask this question with everyone is because I've got this lovely wall planner with all of my dates. I mean, you would have had the doTERRA conference and all sorts. Yeah, right. There you go. So you might as well just throw that one out the window, because as soon as we went into lockdown, it was like, what are we going to do? And while we're lucky here in New Zealand to be able to see people now, a lot of stuff isn't rolling out like we thought at the beginning of 2020. So how did you hit refresh?
Well, I mean, for me, it wasn't business as usual, but it was business very similar to usual. And that's probably because my two businesses, one is wellness. So all of a sudden it skyrocketed in terms of priority for people going, oh my gosh, I need to stay safe. I need to stay healthy. And I didn't realize how important that was. So that's good. And then overlapping with that is I help people with visibility and presenting online. And so suddenly a lot of people are going, wait a minute, I can't speak at live events. I can't do my in-person workshops. I don't even know how to use Zoom. I didn't even know StreamYard was a thing. And I can come in and kind of help them do that. So for me, I did tweak a little bit. I suddenly offered like a lower end offer, like a membership model, which was really cool, instead of running my 6-week program. So I actually moved my 6-week program back. So I did little tweaks like that to cater to what I think people need. And the other thing I found is one-on-one mentoring went up, whereas that small group mentoring, the program, went down because people need such bespoke, specific advice for their business now more than ever, I think.
Brilliant. So listen to that. Because if you're listening to this and you're thinking, oh gosh, how do I move with the times? It's really understand what people's needs are now. It's not black and white, like people aren't buying or they are buying, or they aren't investing in themselves and they are. It's about thinking about, how are you feeling? How are you reacting? And what sort of support do you need? And generally we all felt like we needed really bespoke help. So that's great that you put something on hold, created something a little bit more entry level so that lots of people could get involved, and then upscaled to the top end of your business. So moving with that environment is really key. So if you could go back, I love this question, back to the day before lockdown, knowing what you know now, would you have bought or changed in your business?
Ooh, interesting. I was going to pull my kids out of school, by the way. And I was like, if they don't call it soon, I'm going to call it. And then they called it that night. So I kept them home. What would I change in my business? Did you say change or buy?
Yeah.
Ooh, exciting. Change or buy in my business. I think it's not so much, it's not a buy, it's a change. It's the tiny offer. Have you heard about like the tiny offer, the micro offer, this is the entry level offer. And that's something that I've been talking about more and more recently since lockdown with my clients. I'm like, you guys, you need to have something that is below that. My friend Katrina McCarter, she's in Australia, and she talks about $29 being the no-brainer price point. So anything lower than that, people are like, yep, sweet, I'll get it. Anything above 29, they have to think about it. So I'm encouraging my clients, and I just this weekend created my tiny offer, and it's not live yet, but I feel like having a couple things that are below 29, which to me sounds really cheap, but it's just making things accessible for people. So I really wish I'd had that sooner. I could have sold lots of those during lockdown.
Righto. Well, you'll have to, when we get in the show notes, you'll be able to see how you can get in touch with Nat. So you, by the time this comes out, it'll be live. So she'll be able to let you know. Yeah, and we've got the copy paste tweak swipe file suite, which is every sales conversation that you could ever have. You just copy paste and tweak them, and they are our tiny offer.
Nice.
So that everyone can get their sales copy and conversations correct and converting. So yeah, and that's worked really well for us as like an entry point, so people can start to learn a little bit more about how we operate, how what to expect. So it's fantastic to be able to offer that to someone, and it gives them a real leg up as well. It's over 100 pages, so it's good. So in business, it's not always light, fluffy, and fun. It's not all about private jets and fancy cars and and conferences and doing all the good stuff. There are times when you have to call that are tough, and you have to call BS on yourself. You have to say, no, look, stop. Is there any one time that you've actually had to say, Nat, pull yourself together? You're not being brave. You're not having the impact that you want, that you could share with the listeners that they could learn from?
Well, I've actually been doing my business just over 8.5 years, and probably that point when I realized everything relied on me. And meaning I was doing live events with like 100 women. I was doing one-on-one coaching. Granted, it was online, but it was live online. And I was speaking, like going to other people's events that weren't my events and speaking. And so obviously everything required me to rock up healthy, well, present, ready to do my thing. And I realized, like, this is not smart. I have like no insurance policy. What if I get sick or laryngitis, or what if I want to take a holiday for like 5 weeks? So I think it was probably that moment when I was like, okay, I really need to do something else. And that is actually when doTERRA came into my life. One of my clients, she was like number one in this country in doTERRA. And I was just like, oh my God, where have these oils been my whole life? They could help my overwhelmed moms that I wrote about in my parenting book, which is called If Only They Told Me. And I was like, if only someone had told me about those oils sooner. So it was quite divine timing, but I definitely felt like I'm a little bit vulnerable. So now fast forward 8 years, or, that was probably 4 years ago. Okay. That I made that change in my business. Now, literally during COVID, like I said, because I sold the wellness and the visibility, I felt secure, I felt comfortable, and I also felt like it's my time to shine. I can help people now. Whereas other people really had to go into, nurturing themselves and looking after, they really had to think about things. I was like, I can help. This is my moment. This is the moment I've been waiting for, because I'm equipped. And I also felt fortunate that I'd made that decision. So I had this leverage in my business that previously I just didn't have.
Brilliant. Yeah, I mean, that's when I got the oils was when I was about to have Josh. That's when I started to get into them, and they're phenomenal. They're absolutely phenomenal. Go and see Nat. If you've got any sort of levels of overwhelm, I write about them in my book. I've also got a link on my website, or you can just go and see Nat. They're absolutely fantastic. But we're not here to talk about those, but we are here to hear about what legacy you're wanting to create and leave in the online space. And you've kind of alluded to it, shining in that wellness and visibility. So is that the legacy you're wanting to create and leave in the online space, or have you got something bigger and brighter that's coming in the future?
Well, right now I've got my second book is in the works. So it's called Up Your Brave. And I also have this live stream series I've been doing, because that was going to be a series of live events. But of course we had to tweak and pivot. So I did this panel discussion, and it really is all around, these are the words I use, raising the state of resilience, health, and happiness on a global scale. So in New Zealand, where I live, and obviously I'm a Canadian Kiwi, you can tell by my accent, I'm not originally from New Zealand, although my parents are. So, but I want to raise the state of resilience, health, and happiness in New Zealand, but also on a global scale. Like, I think now's the time. Now's the time for us to really change the way we're living.
Yeah, definitely. Very much so. So you are on the right path. You are at the top of that wave, taking everyone along with you. So it's great to see. And how can people get in touch with you? Obviously, you've got your new book coming out. You've got your tiny offer. But how can people stay in touch with you so that they can be first to jump on these awesome new things coming out?
Yeah, well, I do love Instagram. So it's at GoToGirlNZ Instagram. Also Twitter. I'm not doing much on Twitter. Facebook is my friend. I'm not the best at email. So yeah, I've got a Facebook group that people can join. It's called Amplify Your Impact, Business and Wellness. And my Facebook page, which is actually renamed Up Your Brave with Natalie Cutler-Welsh.
Amazing. Well, there you go. You heard it here. Up Your Brave. It's all new and it's all go. So we will put all the links to those in the show notes. So make sure you go on over there and have a look. And what gift have you got to give to the listeners right now? And maybe by the time the show notes come out, we might be able to put the tiny offer in there as well. But let us know what your gift is.
That's right. So I've got 6 tips to up your brave, because what I find a lot of people go, yeah, like I want to be more confident, courageous, resilient, but how do I do that? And so the 6 tips is really around the how of actually being able to up your brave, whatever that means to you. And it doesn't necessarily mean go bungee jumping, right? It's not about it. It's not even about comfort zone. It's about living the life that you want. And I find a lot of that has to do with taking empowered action and using an intentional languaging, like empowered languaging, intentional choices, and basically just doing what you want. And I don't mean that in a, I don't care about anyone else, but really empowered. And I always touch my heart when I talk about it, doing what you genuinely desire, doing what you want to do, because so often people don't say what they want. They're like, oh, I don't want to be pushy. I don't want to be salesy. I don't want to put myself out there. I don't want to offend anyone. And I think underneath it all, people just don't want to look bad. But as a result, and we're calling it fear of failure, we're calling it perfectionism, we're calling it imposter syndrome. They just don't want to look bad. And I feel like if they worried less, if they cared more about what they think and less about what others think of them, they would more easily move into that impact zone. So if I can leave them with anything like that, it's basically care what other people think, but care what you think more.
Yeah, exactly. Lift yourself above the dog. I totally agree with you. On the weekend, I had a very, very on point example where I said to someone, what is it that you really want? And they said, oh, well, blah, blah, blah wants this and blah, blah, blah wants that. And I know that blah, blah, blah will want this and blah, blah, blah will want that. And I listened because, you've got 2 of these and 1 of these. And if you're listening to this, I'm pointing to my ears. You have 2 ears and 1 mouth, and you should use them in that ratio. And I sort of after like 10 minutes, I had to say, stop. I asked, what do you want? And I think a lot of the time people want to be brave, but they don't actually know or haven't spent the time verbalizing or journaling. However, what they actually really want, no one actually ever asks, what do you want? Mm-hmm. Most people say, how do you think blah, blah will react? Or how do you think that's going to work? Or, but actually sitting down and go, what do I really want? No boundaries.
You hit the nail on the head. That is a magic phrase, which I suggest. And I tell people, and they come to me, they go, Nat, that is a game changer. That changed my marriage. That changed my business. And I teach them to say, like, when people are going on and on and on, it's like, hang on a sec. What do you want? And then when people go, oh, it's a game changer in any working environment or family or friendship. So you hit it on the head. Say what you want. That's my whole thing. Up your brave, say what you want and make it happen.
Yeah, it's awesome. And I mean, I had to ask like 4 or 5 times. And he's like, well, I'm not really sure what you mean. I'm like, what do you want? Regardless of what everyone else is saying, what do you want? So really go, and the link to it will be in the show notes. So make sure if you're listening to this in the car, or you're listening to it out running or exercising or anything like that, like bookmark it, go and have a look and download that, because I think it's going to be an absolute game changer for you. Because even if you can sit down for 10 minutes, everyone can find 10 minutes, right? And download this and actually answer, look at those 6 steps and just pick one little thing that you can up your brave on. I'm pretty sure that then you'll be able to go, actually that worked. Let's pick another thing, right? And go with it. So awesome. Love it. Yeah. Right. And then as a last soundbite for the listeners, I always like to ask the guests, what is your favorite one-liner you give yourself to give yourself a bit of a pep talk to get momentum in your business daily?
I mean, you got this is really short and sweet. And I think that's good. I was last night at a cheerleading tryout for my daughter. And I said to her, what do you say in your mind? And she had this longer version, like, I can do it. I can, I will. It was a longer version. But I often, when I'm watching her, I go like in my mind, you got this, like I'm positively. So, and I also use that when I'm mentoring people, when they're going for a specific goal, they're starting to have the self-doubt. And I'm like, you got this. Right? Yeah. Because it's so easy for us, especially me, to try to come in and rescue them. But if I just give them a, like, you got this, it's quite an empowering phrase. And then I use it for myself as well.
Brilliant. You got this. Awesome. I love it. So easy. You can easily have it as a screensaver on your phone as well.
Totally.
Totally. Hey, well, thank you so much for spending time with us and all the listeners and sharing all your amazing advice and all the exciting stuff that you've got coming out. So make sure if you've been listening to this or watching it, you go and follow Nat, because then you'll be first to know. I definitely want to grab your book. And also, where can we get your other book as well?
Oh, the Up Your Brave book is still in the works.
But your other one.
Got it. Yeah. Oh, the If Only They Told Me book, the parenting one. Yeah, that one, I can send you the link. I have it actually on nataliecutlerwelsh.com. I have a shop page, and I've got a parenting shop, a wellness shop, and a business shop. So it's on the parenting shop.
There you go. I think that all like encompass for a lot of our listeners. So make sure you check that out as well and grab one of her books. So thank you very much. And we will talk to you on the next episode.
Thank you.
Wow, what an amazing episode. Thanks for tuning in. And if you loved the woo with the do and want to dive deeper into how you too can get and keep momentum in your business, then please join us at pennyelliottgroup.com/consistent clients for the live training this month. It's going to be super juicy, as I'm giving you access to the only 3 daily habits and mindset tweaks you need to have consistent clients in your business forevermore. Come and join us.